Yo, what's up, guys? How are we doing? All right. Welcome to this exciting edition of, just Q&A. Just Q&A today, guys. I'm going to share some things with you, share some updates, and of course, answer your guys' questions. I hope everyone's doing well. Happy December. Happy holiday season. And, well, what have I been up to, first of all? It's been a good time. It's been good recently. Keeping busy as always. I was in Costa Rica for a couple weeks. What was that, a few weeks ago or something like that? Little vacation, first time in Costa Rica. Beautiful country, absolutely beautiful. Couple other things going on. Went over to Tennessee to study with Richard Clear. This dude's a real dude, real deal. This dude's an absolute Jedi, Tai Chi master, internal energy arts, studying some Fogong, so healing energy work with Mr. Clear over there, Sifu Clear, really badass dude. I'll be back over there, and some other things going on, but I'm just kind of winding down. Going into winter, it's a good time for me to like. I just try to put less things on my calendar, take a little more time to like breathe, relax, chill. The winter is supposed to be about recollecting our energy, um, gathering. You know what I mean? So we have an abundance as we're in this time of yin and stillness. Uh, so we have an abundance when the spring comes to go out into the world. So it's a good time to be a bit more, spend a little more time, by yourself, having more quiet, more calmness in your life. The more you can cultivate that in the winter, the better. So, okay, we got some questions. Yeah. Type your questions in, guys. I'll answer any question. I don't care. Anything you want to ask me, type in the chat. I'll get your questions in just a moment. But a couple updates, couple personal life updates. A really big one. I'm going to be a daddy in a few months. That's right. My wife and I decided to have a child, and they're due in March. So I'm going to be a daddy here real soon. I'm excited, to be honest. I'm just ready. I'm ready. It's a point in my life where it's time for me to start a family. It's been a really interesting journey with that. I'll talk about that just for a moment here. A couple of things. I'll talk about the issue of fertility because this is a huge thing. Apparently, I didn't have any problems. I'll preface with that. But also, it's been really interesting to me looking at these layers of cultural conditioning, and a big one is definitely around having children. Like there's kind of there's the there's the belief of like this is something terrible. You have no freedom. Your life's going to be a living hell if you have a child. And it's been an exaggeration, but there is this kind of cultural view around that. And I realized that I had carried that for a long time. And really, just the past few years, as I've been really delving into masculinity, like for me, it's like, what is it to be a man, And ultimately realizing, first of all, if no one's having children, ooh, what happens to humanity? You know what I mean? And also, I think it's part of manhood. It's like for what I see talking to other men who become fathers, it's like there comes a point where it's not just about me anymore. You know what I mean? If you're living your whole life just trying to be comfortable, just trying to like, well, it's me, me, me. I need to do everything just so I don't have any struggles or challenges. I'm just super comfortable. Like that's not life. That's not manhood, definitely. So I see it as the next layer where like there's gonna be something outside of myself. I have a family to take care of. So I think it's an important part of manhood personally. So I'm excited about it, to be honest. But let's talk about fertility here for a moment. Um, so first of all, I have to share with you guys. I used semen retention as birth control. 10 years, 10 years of having sex using basically retention was my birth control. Like occasionally used condoms and things like that, contraceptive, but for the majority of the time, 10 years, no unwanted pregnancies. And then it was time. My wife and I were we've been talking about it for a couple of years. Like I think we're gonna have a baby, and so it came time. And I'll just say it only took one shot, guys. It only took one good conscious ejaculation, and boom, she was pregnant. And so semen retention is legit. I will just say that. But it's interesting is I've I've been more in this realm of conception and parenthood and all these things. How common infertility is. Like it's at least 50% of people that are infertile. And I think that's like 50% of people who are going to doctors for it, which means it's probably far more than that. Um, it's a real issue, right? And without this could be a whole hour discussion just on this, but it really goes hand in hand with like the low testosterone because partially, it can be the woman who's infertile, but it can equally be the man who's infertile. And what I learned recently is apparently if a man's testosterone level, his total testosterone is below 500, then he will very often, maybe all the time, be infertile. I'm curious, is there anyone here who has a testosterone level below 500 who's impregnated someone? I'm curious, legitimately curious, because some of the research I've seen suggesting that, of course, as there's this epidemic of low testosterone levels for men, obviously that's going to affect fertility. You're not going to be able to conceive, essentially. And a huge part of it as well is, of course, which goes hand in hand with low testosterone, is high estrogen. Both women, if woman's estrogen is too high, she won't be able to get pregnant. If a man's estrogen is too high, of course he won't. He doesn't have the juice. You know what I'm saying? High estrogen is a huge problem for everyone, men and women, because estrogen is. I'm going to be making more videos on this. So I've been really going down this rabbit hole of research and hormones and neurotransmitters. It's really fascinating. But estrogen is an extremely inflammatory compound and goes very much linked with high levels of cortisol. And most people on the planet, well, most men, obviously women, but men are estrogen dominant. And so, I'll be talking more. You guys can ask me more about this. You want me to speak more on it, but just an interesting thing. So basically, lower your estrogen, increase your testosterone, and obviously for fertility, but overall health and vitality as well. Okay, so there's that, and then cool. The questions are coming in. I'll get you guys questions here very quickly. Ooh, lots of good questions. Thanks, guys. Good to be with you guys as well. Haven't done a live in a little while. Life's been very busy. I've also just been taking a little more, I'm really prioritizing just having more space in my life, having more quietness, more time away from screens, more time in nature, more time doing my practice. Like, it's the state of my 3 hours a day practice and then some, but also just really, I'm trying to follow these Taoist principles of inner harmony and balance. You know what I mean? And you can't really do that when you're like, not that I have been doing this recently at all, but when you're scrolling on social media and all that shit, there's so many distractions. And as I've been talking a lot in some of my recent videos, like just talking about fertility, what I see is the biggest factor of health, definitely your testosterone, your libido, erection health, all of that is the health of your mind. And your mind is not healthy when you're overstimulated with stress, with screens, with all this shit, all this garbage. So the more you can get away from that and just it's easy to get stuck in this like negative spiral loop of like, oh, the world's a crazy place and so chaotic and stressful and dangerous and blah, 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 blah. It's just because you're focusing on these things, because you're being fed it through social media and hopefully you're not watching like CNN and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's just like being shoved down your throat. Of course, you're going to live a life in a state of stress. And when you just turn all that shit off, just have some quiet. Listen to the birds sing. Go out, sit in the park and just look at the trees and the grass. The world becomes a lot smaller, becomes a lot more peaceful. Your mind becomes healthier. And before you know it, your body becomes healthier as well. It's really that simple. Okay. So another announcement. Well, it's not really an announcement, kind of an update of like the sexual kung fu system. Those of you who are like, I'm in sexual kung fu, I want to go all the way into this. I have a system. Because one thing to like listen to theoretical information, talk about this, but it's another thing. Like if you want to develop sexual mastery, if you want to, channel your sexual energy, all these things, you have to train. You have to train every day. You have to train consistently. This is the kung fu lifestyle. So the system, just so it's very clear, I kind of have sexual kung fu separated into, for the like most serious of you, the most serious adepts who are like, I'm in it, I'm going all the way in it. There's kind of two biggest phases in the sexual kung fu system. Phase one is multi-orgasmic man. That's like the big core foundation of everything the sexual kung fu practices, multi-orgasmic man program. And then after multi-orgasmic man is phase two, which is the sex god program. Now, I created the sex god course a couple years ago, and it's a year-long program. It's very, very comprehensive. Of course, all about sexual mastery, masculine, really becoming a man, stepping out of these like people-pleasing nice guy patterns and really just becoming your most badass version of yourself, essentially. So after I made that program, and then it was kind of like, well, there's multi-orgasmic man and there's sex god. And it's become very clear to me that first of all, you start with a multi-orgasmic man program. You go through that. You complete it. You learn the trainings of basically Taoist sexual energy cultivation practices, which of course involves becoming multi-orgasmic, having all the sexual stamina you want, being able to last literally for hours in bed, um, complete ejaculation control, and opening up your balancing your nervous system, your mind, your body, so you can channel sexual energy through your system. So that's multi-orgasmic man. And then after that, phase two is the sex god program, and that's when you go deeper into like what I was just talking about. There's so many subtleties. It's one thing to like have sexual mastery, but there's another thing to like then in your relationships with others, like how are you neutralizing polarity? How are you kind of being a whiny little bitch instead of like being a strong man who's like able to lead a woman, attract a woman, like inspire her passion, her devotion, her lust as well. So that's what we get into in the sex god program. There's it's going to be a phase three as well. You guys will find out more about that. But just so it's very clear, of like those of you who've been through multi-orgasmic man, sex god is the next step, and you're going to have an opportunity to join that program at the beginning of the year 2026. And those of you who are like, shit, I want to go through multi-orgasmic man, I'm going to be opening that up for you guys early on in 2026. And there's some other trainings that are great starting points, like the I created the male sexual mastery course. Is just like it's very basic starting point. It's like the bare foundations of sexual kung fu. You can kind of explore that and see if it's for you and if you want to continue on with the system. So, all right. Cool. Lots of questions here. A couple more things to mention just quickly here. The first one is my book, which the working title right now is The Tao of Male Sexual Mastery. Oh, yeah. The tentative release date is February 6th, 2026. So in about 2 months, my book will be available. I was originally going to release it, in the fall around October, but again, it's a lot to write a book. It's been one of the most difficult projects I've ever done, and I want it to be good. Like I don't want to half-ass anything, so I just decided to spend a few more months just kind of tidying some things up, making sure it's like an encyclopedia of sexual mastery, guys. Like you will not be disappointed. So that's coming out early February 2026. Very exciting. The other thing I want to kind of mention, last thing I want to mention, I'll get to you guys' questions. Is I kind of teased this a while ago. Most of you probably haven't heard about this, but I've been working with a supplement company to develop a product. Not just any supplement company. We're talking about like the best, one of the highest quality companies in the world. From what I've seen, these guys have been in business a long time. Absolutely like state high end products that they source, the sourcing, the way that they put the products together, absolutely high end. Because the supplement industry it's a very sleazy industry. There's a lot of complete bullshit that people are selling. Like often if you go on Amazon and look for like herbs or things like that, some of them will be good, but a lot of things you'll buy will just be like, it may not even have the product it says it's selling on it, or it's just like a really, really washed down amount. It's full of fillers and it's been sitting on a shelf for 5 years. So there's a lot of that in the supplement industry. But I'm putting together a product with this company it's going to be an elite male libido formula. There's never been anything like it. There never will be anything like it. Both the technology of creating it and also the ingredients within it. I got this like secret Taoist formula, pretty badass. So I'm really excited about it. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. I'm hoping it's out before the end of 2026. I can't guarantee that, but we'll see. But just wanted to tease you guys that. All right. So that's coming up. All right. With that, let's see what you guys got. Let's get into these questions. Again, type any question you want in the chats. We'll see if we can get through all these today. And thanks you guys for being here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the sexual kung fu community. It really is all about you guys. That's why I'm doing this. I want to empower men around the world, because I know what it's like to struggle with porn addiction, struggle with not having the type of sex life that you want, not knowing like where you're going in life, and really feeling held back. Like sexual kung fu is about empowering yourself. It's about empowering you. It's about you guys. It's about you becoming the best versions of yourself. It's about you overcoming the weaknesses, the limitations, the self-doubts you have that are preventing you from being multi-orgasmic, from having amazing sex, but even bigger than that, doing amazing things in the world. Because a man who has full command of his sexual energy, who's not controlled by it, but is using it, driving that energy consciously, that is a man who's going to do amazing things in the world. All right. And that's you guys. Those of you who are in it for real. You know what I'm saying? You know who you are. All right. Okay, Mill Hartman, Mihail Nortman. Unfortunately, the first part of your question did not get posted. I apologize. If you repost it, I can. Sounds like some kind of inflammation issue. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, YouTube withholds some comments. So if I miss your questions, probably it hasn't shown up. Sometimes like certain sexual words trigger like a filter and it removes them. So we might have to use like coded language. Unfortunately, you know, we're on big tech. We play by their rules. Okay, MK Big Brain Tech is asking, how do I go from a 7 second man, no sugarcoating, become as good as you claim as possible? Don't ignore me. Yeah. So how to go from being a 7 second man to lasting as long as you want? And I'll be repeating a lot of things that some of you have heard me say over and over in my videos, but the simplest thing to understand is that you're a 7 second man because you've ingrained a stress response to sexual arousal. You have a sympathetic nervous system dominant pathway to sexual arousal. That's creating tension in your mind and your body. It's short circuiting. It's like, imagine you have, no, I've got this container. Imagine this was a plastic bottle, all right? And this is like the the amount of potential pleasure or sexual stimulation you can hold. All right. Well, when you have a stress response, that means there's this constriction. So if I actually had someone demonstrate it more graphically, but it's like if this bottle was made of plastic and I could like squeeze it and tighten it, so there'd only be this little space in the bottom. That's all that you have to. That's the only space of what you have available to experience pleasure and sexual stimulation. That's like how much nervous system information you can handle before you ejaculate. All right, because you're tense and you're your nerves are out of balance, out of balance. All right. So essentially, what we're doing in sexual kung fu is removing that constriction so that bottleneck opens up, and now you have this whole container to hold a high level of sexual stimulation. Um, that's all it is, all right? And we do that systematically in sexual kung fu. It's if it was just about like, well, you do this one trick, this one tip, just think about your grandma, think about football scores, do algebra equations in your mind during sex. It was just one thing. That's all you would need, and that's all I would share. But so you understand that it's 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 really simple ultimately, but it's not necessarily easy because you've ingrained in this pattern through repetition and repetition and repetition. So it's a reflex. When you become sexually aroused, especially like when you're having sex with a partner, you go back to that unconscious pattern that was programmed in through years and years and years of repetition. So you have to reprogram a different response in. You have to consciously, in the moment, choose to have a different response to sexual stimulation, one based on relaxation and a parasympathetic nervous system dominant pathway. And there's many tools. Again, it's not just one thing. It's like I could say like just relax, and like ultimately that's kind of what it is, but it's not that easy, is it? Because you would have just done that already. So there's a whole lot of different very physical things as well as mental, internal energetic things we do in sexual kung fu to open up your container. And once you do that, you're no longer limited by time or like sexual. It's no longer a countdown of shit. When am I going to bust? Do I go from 7 seconds to 2 minutes to 5 minutes? Literally, when you maintain that state of openness and like the sexual stimulation signals just move throughout your body, they don't get stuck anywhere. You never ejaculate. Simple as that. And based on this question, like a lot of people's questions, there's a lot of guys who like it sounds like they don't think this is possible, like that I'm like making all this shit up, but like literally it's extremely rare for me to have sex and have to like do anything drastic to like even think about like, oh, what am I going to do to control ejaculation? Because I've trained this pattern into my body over it's been 12 years now. 12 years I've been doing this stuff every single day. Yeah, it took me a few years to get there, and it was an up and down process. But once I got it, it's just again, it's like anything. It's just a reflex. Now when I go into sex, I'm relaxed. I know what to do with my pelvic floor. I know how to breathe. I know what to do with when there's a lot of the sensation here, how to move it in other areas so that my whole body gets involved and it becomes full body orgasmic. Like any man can do this. I've helped many men, helped hundreds of men do this, indirectly thousands of men. So that's all it is. You just have to commit to the system and go through it. One of the big challenges is that, people are like, they're like studying my stuff, but there's also this person's stuff. Then they're on Reddit, they're doing all this random shit. And like, probably a lot of conflicting advice. Like if you're still doing like Kegels or like random shit other people are teaching you, it's probably going to hold back your progress. So it's like choose one system, choose one thing, choose a pathway, and commit to it. That's all it is. Like I ask any of you guys, if you're serious about this practice, if you're serious about sexual mastery, commit to the system. It doesn't even have to be my system. It could be someone else's. But if you're still just like randomly piecing things together, trying to learn from books and Reddit articles, like you're never going to go beyond the kindergarten levels of training. Ultimately, you have to have step by step. It really is like athletic training. I talk about this a lot. All right, so I don't want to get too stuck on this one question, but I know this is a common question. This is one of the biggest things we all want is how do we last longer? All right, and that's what I'm one of the biggest things. One of my biggest promises to you is if you follow what I teach, you will learn to last longer. All right. Hallelujah. In the spirit of the holiday season, hallelujah. Okay. I got a question from Instagram. I think that's Jose. Sometimes like names are all together on Instagram. So the question is my thoughts on fasting. Fasting's very trendy. It's funny. There's these things that like everyone's into, and like they become such a like thing of like this is the thing that you do that people will do it regardless if it's actually benefiting them or not because they're so like mentally programmed. We humans are we're very neurotic people. We live in this age of like information, like completely mental information. Like if you can write something in word format that convinces someone to do something, they'll believe it and they'll do it. And even if like they'll start to bypass their own natural sensitivity and like their own uh, true observational, maybe common sense, because they're so fixated on, well, the information said this, it's supposed to be true, so it must be. And fasting is one of these things where this often shows up. So I don't think fasting is for everyone. I think it can be very beneficial for some people, and it can be very detrimental for some people. I'm one of the people that fasting is not very beneficial for. Like it was benefit. The benefits of it for me was that I was able to lose body fat, things like that. But when I fast, my cortisol goes through the roof. I just feel hyper stimulated. I don't sleep well. I feel really irritable. Like, and it just gets worse and worse the longer I go. So, uh, and of course, in the beginning, I was like, well, just because I'm detoxing, blah blah blah. And ultimately, I realized like it's just I already have like a high metabolism. I have a lot of energy moving through my system, and in Chinese medicine, if you have spleen deficiency, which has never been one of my strongest elements, earth element, spleen, stomach, then the worst thing you can do is fast. And what's better for someone with spleen energy deficiency is to eat more small meals throughout the day, basically to constantly be eating instead of fasting and specifically eating like warm cooked foods. And so, anyways, I guess the short answer is that it really depends. Some people will benefit from fasting, but a lot of people, it will simply drive their cortisol through the roof, and it's just kind of torturing themselves. And actually, like their metabolism overall slows down from the process, and they actually have a hard time like getting back to like a good baseline as far as their digestive fire and metabolism. So it can be good, but I know people who really overdo fasting because they're obsessed with it. Again, a strong symptom of spleen stomach deficiency in Chinese medicine is obsession. If you're a very obsessive person, and usually it's the obsessive people who already have this deficiency that tend to get fixated on doing drastic things that are causing deeper imbalances within them because it's done very obsessively. I know people who are they're so obsessed with fasting, and they're already like underweight, and they just look like their skin and bones, and they're just like addicted to fasting, and it's not actually benefiting them. You can see them; it's depleting them. It's like, bro, like you might want to eat a steak or something, man. So I'm not huge on fasting. Again, I think it's beneficial for some people, but I don't think it's like a magic cure all. There's better ways to detox. There's more balanced ways to detox if that's what you're seeking. Okay. Question from Instagram: which is better, training pelvic floor muscles, or doing running and weekly sprint, or both? Well, I don't know what you consider to be training your pelvic floor muscles or why you're training them. What a lot of people call training your pelvic floor muscles is doing Kegel exercises, which, in my opinion, is one of the stupidest things you can do if you're trying to achieve sexual mastery, because it will steer you back towards that stress response, attention response. The more you can avoid squeezing the pelvic floor during sexual stimulation, the less likely you will be to ejaculate. So doing Kegels just strengthens that pathway of tension. So it's a stupid thing to do. But if you're talking about training pelvic floor by like by releasing the tension patterns that almost everyone's carrying in them, that's great. But pelvic floor work versus running and sprinting are going to do very different things. Ultimately, any sort of physical exercise is going to work your pelvic floor. Like if you walk, if you sprint, if you lift weights, if you do a moderate amount of physical activity, your pelvic floor is already plenty engaged. You don't need to try to strengthen it on top of that. It I get it. I understand like what the thought process behind this, but when you really understand what the pelvic floor is, how it works, it's just absolutely ridiculous to put such an emphasis on like Kegel exercises, this type of thing. Okay. Speaking of pelvic floor, Chris Anderson's asking, can you talk about what a reverse Kegel is supposed to feel like? I've been trying it for months, but I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. Is it like a pushing out instead of squeezing, or just relaxing? So, yeah, the first thing with this is like terminology, because some people, if you look up reverse Kegel, you'll find a wide variety of what a reverse Kegel actually is. Some people call a reverse Kegel where you're just relaxing your pelvic floor. Like a Kegel is you squeeze, and like a reverse Kegel is just relax. You know, I consider reverse Kegel to be more of a pushing out motion, because to me it's like if you're doing an exercise and you're like, okay, I'm doing a bicep curl. Like, what would a reverse bicep curl be? Would it be relaxing? Not really reverse. Reverse might be like a tricep push down. It's an opposing motion, right? So that's my logic behind why I think the reverse Kegel is more of the pushing motion. But there's a lot of nuance in it. I'm actually dropping a video tomorrow on YouTube that I think will help you understand more of like what needs to be engaging when you're doing um, a reverse Kegel type of action. Because the whole thing with reverse Kegels is like you got to find a sweet spot. Ultimately, the goal of it is to lengthen and kind of stretch out the pelvic floor. But there's also this aspect of creating sort of a confusion in the signals that are going from your pelvic floor to your brain, because there's this signal going from your penis to your prostate up to the brain when your penis is being stimulated, saying, hey, okay, we're like loading the gun. It's like, okay, or like pulling back the bow, getting ready to release the arrow. It's like, okay, a bit more tension, a bit more tension, a bit more tension. So it's like loading the gun until, all right, it's ready. Let's fire. And you ejaculate. Well, when you're doing reverse Kegels in the right way, especially watch the video tomorrow. It's gonna hopefully it'll clear some things up. But when you do it in this certain way, it's actually blocking that signal that's going to your brain, telling it to load the gun to prepare to ejaculate. And so it's going to take some experimentation. Like, the simplest thing is like, it's like if you're urinating and try to increase the flow of urine, kind of pushing, what does that feel like? Next time you go to you go to urinate, try that. Or even like pushing out a poop, which you shouldn't really be doing if you're having bowel movements by pushing it out. Your bowels are probably a little bit jacked up if you have to push things out. But that's a little bit what it feels like. But then it's like you play with intensity. Like, okay, what would like 1% of that feel like? What would 90% feel like? Because if you do it too hard, it will go in the other direction. You'll still have a tension response. But when you nail it just right, again, it prevents the stretching, or it creates more of a stretching and lengthening instead of a contracting. All right. So it just takes some experimentation. All right. You got to get in the field and do it, my friends. Like, how do you guys think I came up with all this stuff? I mean, some of it I learned, but a lot of these practices I teach now, I literally invented, like incorporating things I learned from Qigong, internal energy, circulations, different pelvic floor practices, physiological training. Like, I just played with all kinds of shit, literally hours and hours and hours and hours, both of self pleasure and having sex, just throwing throwing the noodles at the wall, seeing what stuck. And what stuck is what I'm sharing with you guys. All right. So like you just got to get in the field and experiment, friends. Like, see like what happens when I Kegel? What happens when I reverse Kegel? What happens if I open my eyes really wide, look left and right? That's one of the like Taoist, some of the like Taoist classic books. It's like you press the teeth up together and look up, take a deep breath. You know, they were just experimenting with random shit too. It sounded like. Okay, Layla is asking, "What's my diet nowadays? Do I eat carbs? Are you 100% carnivore?" I've never really been 100% carnivore. I tried carnivore diet. I lasted about 5 days. I felt awful. I felt absolutely awful. I loved the meals. Like I remember going to the store and like, "All right, start my carnivore diet." I got like steak and like uh, loads of ground meat, ground beef, eggs. I even got like some bacon, like whatever, just going all the way, tons of butter. Um, the food was amazing, but man, I felt terrible. I was so thirsty. I was drinking tons and tons and tons of water, but I just couldn't quench the thirst. I was waking up at night with heart palpitations. Like I was like, this doesn't feel good. So I didn't continue on carnivore diet. Not to mention the fact that I couldn't poop for 5 days. I'm like, I don't know. I just it didn't feel right. My diet right now is it's not like a title. It's not like a titled trending diet. I just eat basically a whole foods kind of diet. I eat organic. I lean more towards the paleo side. I avoid grains. I don't do processed foods. I eat very clean, or all organic. I cook pretty much all my own food. I don't like to eat out. I still do sometimes, but I prefer just to cook my own food because it's healthier, tastes better, everything. I do a lot of meat. I eat at least like a pound or more of ground beef a day. Beef is my favorite meat. 80/20, you'll get those good fats in it. Man, I never felt better than once I started eating a lot of red meat, which is funny because like the whole rest of my life, I was like, oh, red meat's supposed to be bad for you. Oh, meat's toxic. Complete bullshit. All this, yeah. Anyways, I eat lots of meat. I do some carbs. I've actually upped my carbs, been experimenting with that. I tried doing keto at the beginning of this year. And that was another disaster. Like I felt horrible. My sleep was terrible. My recovery was horrible. I had the worst workouts I've ever had at the gym. So keto sucked. Lasted. I don't know if it lasted a week. It was about a week on that. It was rough. So I'm just like, nothing extreme. I just want a healthy, balanced diet. Reasonable. It's reasonable. But some of my favorite foods, again, beef, eggs. I eat a lot of eggs, a lot of beef. I like sweet potatoes, some fruit, bone broth. Bone broth is fantastic. Some cooked vegetables. In the winter, I'm trying to do everything cooked and good for the spleen energy. The worst thing you can do, according to Chinese medicine, one of the worst things for your digestion, especially if your spleen, stomach deficient, is eat lots of like raw, cold foods. Um, so, since I started eating like lots of soups, warm things, broths throughout the winter months, my digestion's much stronger. I'm just like I'm hungry a lot throughout the day. My body temperature's higher. I'm just like, so eating seasonally is good as well. More cooling things in the summer, more warming things in the winter. Common sense, really. I'll be dropping another updated sexual kung fu diet video soon, though. I avoid seed oils like the plague. I avoid gluten, wheat, glyphosate. Do not put that shit in your body. Highly estrogenic. Seed oils, glyphosate, GMOs, pesticides, super load, super estrogenic, super inflammatory. Do not touch that stuff. You challenge me in Mortal Kombat, bro? Hope you're ready to get your ass kicked. Nah, I haven't played Mortal Kombat in a while, to be honest. But man, back in the late '90s, I remember going to the arcade playing Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Holy shit, those are the days. No, this is the Mortal Kombat 2. This was on the side of the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machines. Raiden, my man. Okay, question on Instagram from Trading in the Zen. Is it possible to do this when your stamina is so low you only last a minute, if that? If so, how long would you say that it takes to get in control? I'm guessing what you mean by stamina and lasting a minute is that you last a minute before ejaculating, or you last a minute before being incredibly exhausted and like having to go to sleep. I imagine it's leaning towards the ejaculation thing. And again, it doesn't matter if you only last 5 seconds. Implementing this, you can change that ultimately. Because for men who are super quick shooters, where it's like I put it in and then I ejaculate, usually that is, well, it's usually one of a few things. Number one, it could be prostate inflammation. If you have swollen prostate, if you have prostatitis, if you have like a bacterial or fungal infection in your prostate, which is very common in men, then that will cause a very exaggerated ejaculation response. So that's something you want to look at, is make sure your prostate's healthy. If you're in your 20s and 30s, probably not the case, but you never know these days. But other than that, it's usually just a very strong. Often you're in like a kind of a shutdown, complete fight or flight mode. Like you go into sex and it's like, oh fuck, and you'll know this is the case because do you go into sex with a sense of dread? Do you feel kind of a knot in your stomach? Do you feel super tense? Do you feel super in your head about like, oh, what's going to happen? What should I do this? And then what if she does this? What's she going to think? What am I going to do? I'm not trying to make fun of anyone. I know that's what it feels like. I've experienced this myself and it's not fun. So that's the other thing where it's just like, you're just ultimately strong tension response, strong tension pathway of sexual response. You're two in your head. And this is where the sexual kung fu training helps you, because you learn practices that what we're doing in sexual kung fu is like, you know, I use the analogy of the Karate Kid movie, the original one from the 80s, right? Where Mr. Miyagi's training Daniel. Daniel wants to learn karate, and he's like, okay, well, here's this rag. I'm gonna wax my car, wax on, wax off. So Daniel's spending hours and hours doing this like repetitive shit. And he's like, what the hell does this have to do with karate? And eventually he's like, sick of this, man. This is bullshit. I told you I want to learn karate. And then Mr. Miyagi's like, Daniel's son, wax off. And he throws a punch at him. And Daniel's son, he blocks his punch. He says, wax on. He blocks his other punch. He's like, oh shit. Like, I've been doing karate this whole time. It's kind of how it is in sexual kung fu. We do all these practices, all this qigong, nervous system balancing practices, pelvic floor work, breath work, all kinds of things. And sometimes men start the system like, what the hell does this have to do with sex? This isn't even related. I'm like, patience, young grasshopper, give it time. And what these practices do is they're giving you tools, first of all, to build your presence. The cure for overthinking and overworrying is to do something that gets you back in your body, to give your mind something to settle on. The breath is the really simple, easy thing. And there's a whole lot of other layers we add onto this. All right. So you do all these things, and before you know it, you go into the bedroom and all of a sudden you know what to do. You know how to relax. You know how to breathe. You know how to engage your pelvic floor. And it's like, you're waxing her off. You know what I'm saying, boys? So yeah, even if you only last 5 seconds with this training, you can change that. All right. Layla's asking, do I still recommend the double helix breathing nowadays? Yeah, absolutely. This is a pretty. I've got this old video on my YouTube channel, double helix breath. You can look it up. But in my multi-orgasmic man program, I teach a transformational breathwork practice that incorporates that breath and some other ones, and we do it for long periods of time. It's kind of like holotropic breathwork. It's similar to that, to where it's a specific breathwork practice that causes all kinds of interesting effects. All right. It gets you really freaking high, but it resets your nervous system, resets your mind, resets emotional patterns. It's just like this big, like clearing the slate, clearing the palate. Really powerful practice. So yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. Joe Chuck says, yeah, yesterday I got a high five from my wife for outlasting her. Well done, Joe Chuck. Joe Chuck. That could be your new normal. You know what I'm saying? Nathan Kuroka, what's up, man? Currently at the beach. Excellent. It's a great place to be. Can you speak about breathing from the prostate or through the whole of the penis? I've been, whoop, I did something there. There we go. Uh, I lost it. Where is it? There we go. Okay, been wondering about this concept basically. Okay, so yeah, you can experiment with this, experiment with all kinds of things. All right, like I say, like, sexual kung fu was founded on experimentation. All right, can you imagine these like Chinese guys sitting in the mountains, in the temples? I don't know where they were. Maybe they're in the city. They're in whorehouses. Who knows? And they're like, what if I breathe into my balls? And then there's like, how do you think this stuff came about? People were just playing around with shit. Right, so we can do that too. We can play around with things, but they probably had a lot more body awareness we have these days. Breathe into your balls. Okay, so back on track, right? Uh, yeah, you can breathe from the prostate. I talk about this in the prostate orgasm course, where you breathe from the prostate. I've tried breathing through the hole of the penis as well. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. For me, though, I tend to focus on the most powerful energy gates. That's where I get the biggest effect from, because when you can, this is one of the big things with dragon breathing, which is a very powerful practice I teach a multi-orgasmic man. When you can, there's certain energy points that have a stronger effect on like the surrounding groups, and they'll kind of radiate around. You open up one energy gate, it opens up several others when you work with the right ones. So that's what I implemented in the dragon breathing of like, where am I going to get the most bang for my buck if I'm going to do a practice? All right. So I tend to focus more on the testicles or like the anus, as if the anus was a straw. I've talked about that. Some other ones, but again, like sometimes just what's it feel like to breathe through my penis, like through the urethra, from the prostate. I do prostate breathing a lot, to be honest. So yeah, it's anything. It's whatever you want to connect to. That's the Neigong, man. Is you first, we learn the basic tools, you learn the like proper forms and the kind of step by step instructions, but then you apply it to whatever you want. See what happens. Okay, another question. What does it mean if the root chakra is pulsating very hard and almost painful during sleep to the point of waking me up? It could be many things. I'm not sure, like, if you're talking about root chakra, like, it's an actual, like, just purely energetic thing, or if it's like there's a physical part of your body that's pulsing. Is it painful? You know what I mean? It could mean a lot of different things. It could be good. It could be a medical condition. So, maybe there's a little more nuance to it, I'd imagine. Need more specifics. Jose, we're glad you're appreciating the free information on YouTube. Yeah, guys, I have I have like a lifetime of like library of information on my YouTube channel, like massive, massive. It's all for free. Like, go through that. It's a huge, 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 massive resource. And then the programs, the courses are like the organized step by step training through everything. Excellent, Joe Chuck. Glad you and the wife are appreciating the practices. Keep it up, man. Just gets better. Overall, it has its ups and downs, but like in the long run, it's just upward spiral, my friend. All right, Matt Brown's asking, what positions are good to move energy during the wild thing? Yeah, baby. Uh, Basically, whatever you feel most comfortable in. For me, having my spine really like upright and open, I find most supportive for like energetic circulation practices, which is why I like to be standing up. Like one of my favorite positions, I call it the king's position, where the woman's on the bed or the couch, the table, whatever it is. She's on her back, her legs are up. You're holding on to them. Maybe they're over your shoulders. I don't care. Whatever. Do whatever. Uh, and you're standing in kind of a wide stance, kind of a horse stance, spine upright. You can move from the glutes. You can really, get that. For me, that upright spine just really like can focus on the energy flow. But again, whatever you feel the most relaxed in. Like when I'm on my back, my partner's on top, cowgirl. I can really relax and just like feel what's happening. Yeah, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Jose is saying he mixes some of my practices with yoga. Is that okay? I probably should put a warning. If you do that, your balls are going to explode. All right. So no, no, it's great. Great. Yeah, I do yoga too. I've done yoga every day since 2011. It's great. Yoga's great. It opens you up, makes you a lot more flexible, a lot more loose. Really balancing for a lot of the intense physical things I do. Okay. Someone's asked me if I would do a deal for all my courses at once. You can send my team an email, info at jonathanwhitelifestyle.com. It's kind of long. If you go on YouTube, I think you go YouTube to my profile, show contact info. The email will be in there. You can send an email there. We can we can see what is a good fit. Okay, okay. Here's an interesting question. Hayden's asking if I'm a 7 second man trying to improve, how serious is cutting caffeine, or what role does caffeine play? I think this is a very significant thing because tying into what I was talking about, where a lot of men who ejaculate very quickly are super overstimulated and sympathetic nervous system super active. Often cortisol is high, often estrogen's high, and the two go hand in hand. And caffeine is usually just going to exacerbate this. Caffeine instantly creates a release of cortisol, adrenaline, and puts you more fight or flight. I have to be very careful with caffeine personally. Like I'm very sensitive to it. I sometimes I can drink like green tea, good, even like good, super high quality, hand picked organic Chinese green teas and oolong teas, which I love, but they're often very stimulating. Even that is often too stimulating for me. I've been drinking a lot more Gynostema tea. I was drinking some right here, which is a nice non-caffeinated, tonic herbal tea. So yeah, if premature ejaculation is an issue, I would definitely experiment with cutting out caffeine because that is probably it's likely only going to contribute to it. Because the whole thing is you want to get lower your cortisol as much as possible. Um, More parasympathetic dominance. So like the more calming, grounding things you can do to support your system, the better off you're going to be. Okay, MK Big Brain's asking me what's my favorite character in Mortal Kombat. Scorpion, 100%. My OG, my big brother and I used to play Mortal Kombat growing up. He was Sub Zero, I was Scorpion, and just I've always been Scorpion. What can I say? I mean, I have to say that, dude, the Mortal Kombat movie, the original one, the 1995, not the modern one that came out a few years ago. That one was not great. The sequel's coming out next year. We'll see. It looks promising, but dude, the 90s Mortal Kombat movie, one of my favorite movies, of a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece. All right, it's fantastic. Whereas what the sequel they made to that, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, came out in 1997. Horrible. I mean, it's one of those movies that's so bad it's enjoyable. You know what I mean? I loved it when I was a kid, but like, man, it's absolutely atrocious. Anyways, I'm a child of the '90s. What can I say? Okay, someone's asking, do we need multigasmic man first, then sex god after, or I can just get sex god without buying MOM? I highly encourage you. I've kind of said it so that yeah, the sexual kung fu system is multi-orgasmic man and then sex god. Because multi-orgasmic man's, I mean, it's complete sexual kung fu system. All right, and then sex god's like going even deeper in, basically. Okay, here's a question from Instagram. Recently got back with my ex. She told me she had some of the best intercourse while we were off, made her squirt and I never have, so it's caused performance anxiety. Any suggestions or thoughts? Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, well, when we were away, I had sex with this other guy who was way better. It's one of those things where, first of all, kind of looking at like, you know, I have to be careful with this one. I have to be careful with this one. Um, I mean, if they're constantly if constantly bringing things up like that, like, oh, well, I had sex with this guy and he was way better. You know what I mean? It's like you got to look at what are the boundaries of this relationship that you have. You know what I mean? Is this someone you really want to like? You're giving power to this person ultimately, and it's obviously affecting how you feel, making you feel self-conscious. Now there's different layers to this. Like there's getting to your own, you know, feelings of self-consciousness and things like that, of just owning your own self, and always striving to improve and things like that. But also like, um these situations can also be very toxic. Like, hey, like you don't really need to tell me these things. All right, like I don't want to hear about it anymore. All right, like I don't know. Basically, what I'm saying is like this is ultimately you have to decide. Like you're the one who sets the boundaries here. We all have complete power over the relationships we create, the situations we have in life. We often play we're a victim and we're just kind of like, well, it's just what I'm stuck with. But that's the unconscious. This is the matrix. All right, this is the programming we get into, is just be slaves. But at any point, you can take control of everything in your life. And it's a lot of responsibility to that. And it requires you owning it 100%. But you have to realize, like, am I creating the relationship I want? Am I being in this unhealthy, toxic relationship just because I feel like I can't get something better? And that's always going to be a dead end, basically. So you got to look at things and like say, what do I do for myself? What is the life I want to live? How am I going to get there? What needs to change in my relationship if I'm to remain in it? You know what I mean? This is where you become the creator of your reality. All right, and own yourself a little bit. Own your boundaries. Don't let people gaslight you and like make you feel inferior. It can often be a manipulation tactic that keeps you under control from them. That's very dangerous territory to be in. All right. So wish you the best, my friend. Be careful out there, boys. I would rather be single than in a toxic. I would rather be single and sexless than in a toxic relationship. I've been through enough of them to tell you that much. Okay, two questions from Layla. Uh, can Kundalini awaken during sleep? I suppose. I don't see why not. Are you familiar with the work on Robert? Although you'll know because like you'll all of a sudden feel like you dropped acid and you're in the fifth dimension, another dimension, and yeah, Kundalini is a very trendy thing, but people often don't really. It's very rarely like a true Kundalini experience people are having. The other question is, am I familiar with the work of Robert Fruce on energy work, astral projection, and Kundalini? Yes, I am. Read a bunch of his books. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. He's got some great stuff to share. Absolutely. Trading Zen is asking, am I speaking of pranayama? Meditate all the time. I'm very familiar with that. Energy, vibration, separating from your body. Is that what you mean by holographic breathing? I was talking about holotropic breathing, which is a specific type of breath work invented by, oh, I forget the guy's name right now. Starts with an S, something Grav, Stanislav, something. Um, which is basically you're kind of like hyperventilating for long periods of time, like an hour, 3 hours, or something. Yeah, pranayama. You could say it's like a juiced up pranayama, and all the stuff came from like yogic, Tibetan, Taoist practices. Like everyone, all modern teachers teaching this stuff, like Joe Dispenza, Wim Hof, all the stuff. It's just pranayama practices. It's yogic practices, or it's like like origins of energy work, indigenous traditions, but most the more sophisticated practices came from the Taoists, the yogis, the Tibetans, and there was a lot of like interplay between them all. Okay, question from Instagram: how to relax the pelvic floor while having sex when when you're involuntary squeezing. So basically, how do you keep the pelvic floor relaxed during sex so you don't experience involuntary squeezing? Well, this is one of the big training points of sexual kung fu, and it's going to be a process. I can tell you to do things like reverse Kegels, where you kind of push out the pelvic floor a little bit, take a deep breath in, hold that breath, and almost like you're gently trying to push out a poop. Don't do it if you actually have if you actually have to have a bowel movement right now. Don't do it. Okay. I hope that's common sense, but apparently it isn't from some of the comments I get. Take a breath in, hold it in your belly, and think of pushing the belly and pushing downward into the pelvic floor, and that will stretch out your pelvic tissues a little bit. That's a reverse Kegel. That's kind of like one of the training wheels in the very beginning you can use to avoid those pelvic floor contractions. But by doing the right pelvic floor exercises, there's routines. I have several pelvic floor stretching routines on my YouTube channel that, if you use them regularly, will help to release, because there's often all this deep layers of ingrained tension in the pelvic floor in men and women. And this also connects to nervous system patterns, often like emotional patterns, stress response, fight or flight response. So it's both coming from your nervous system, the kind of wiring of your nervous system, how you respond to things, as well as just it's where you physically hold tension in your body. So there's layers to it, and I can say, well, just relax it when you have sex, but obviously it's not that easy. So those are some things that may help. But again, yeah, check out my YouTube channel. Go on YouTube, Sexual Kung Fu. Look up Sexual Kung Fu pelvic floor on YouTube. I have a whole bunch of videos talking about this and like how to retrain the pelvic floor. And obviously, this is one of the main focal points that we go into in the courses. Okay, Manchi Panchi said, I had porn addiction from 19 to 26 and took almost 4 years to stop. Yeah, man. I mean, it's I don't think there's a lot of men who grew up in this world, in the past, I don't know, since the internet really, who haven't been porn addicts. You know what I mean? I was watching porn. I was looking at porn pretty consistently from like 14 years old until, um, I don't know, probably 22, 23, something like that. It's almost 10 years, but dropped it pretty quickly once I got into these practices. Just got to find something better. Shepherd Candomba. Glad you're appreciating the info. Okay, another question from Instagram. How the Angion method has worked for you? Yes, the Angion method has worked for me. Fantastic. It's really funny. The whole world of like, it's often called like PE, like penis enlargement exercises, maybe penis enhancement. It stands for one of those. Anyways, there's a whole world. There's whole like internet forums, at least there was back in the day, dedicated to like penis enlargement techniques, which 99% of the time involved you take your penis and you stretch it, and you jelk, you squeeze it like a tub of toothpaste till all your blood vessels pop out. That's what guys are doing. And it's supposed to be, we're like, oh yeah, this will make your dick bigger, it'll make it harder, blah blah blah. And you're literally just like mangling the living hell out of your dick. A lot of men develop irreversible, nerve damage, could be fibrosis, erectile dysfunction, all kinds of things. These are terrible ideas. These stretching, jelking, mangling, even like penis pumps can potentially be extremely dangerous as well. All right. I don't recommend these things. I used to do them for a long time. Not a long time, but I, back in, what was this? This was several years ago. There was a winter where I was experiencing just my erections weren't as hard as I would have liked. Sometimes during sex, I was kind of losing the erection a little bit. And me being me, I immediately, I'm like, well, I don't accept things that happen that I don't want to be happening. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to find a solution to this. And one of the things, of course, is like, oh, we'll do jelking. So every day, I think for like 6 months, maybe around that much, I was doing jelking, or maybe it was like every other day, whatever. And I would be doing jelking and it'd be like popping blood vessels. Like I'd have these red spots in my dick, which is what happens when you do jelking. And there's the whole theory is like, well, you burst the blood vessels, but then they grow back stronger or something like that. And people compare it to like building muscles where you tear it down, but it grows back stronger. But the smooth muscle, the smooth tissue of the penis it's not skeletal muscle. It's completely different tissue. And basically, my erections initially seemed to improve a little bit, but they were not. It was going downhill at a certain point from doing jelking. And I think someone mentioned to me, I don't remember how I stumbled upon it, Angion method. So I look it up. It's created by Janis Bifrons. I don't know if that's his real name, but he created this dude. I call him the Da Vinci of dicks because this guy went to like medical school. He like studied cadavers. Just sounds like just because you want to understand like how to improve erections, basically. He took steroids. He experimented with like all the erectile dysfunction drugs. He talked about like how um, Viagra can make you go blind. Basically, a lot of these erectile drugs are very dangerous. All right, that's another thing I can speak about here in a moment. Anyways, I'm like, this is a man of my own, kinship. Like this is the kind of thing I do. Like when I'm into something, I don't know if I've told you guys how much of a guinea pig I've been. I've tried all kinds of shit. I try every supplement. I've even tried like some of these peptides and things. I don't talk about it much because none of them ever like proved to be fruitful for me. All right. So you guys only get what's actually worked and been proven. Like behind the scenes, I'm doing some crazy shit over here. I got to tell you guys, I don't know if you know that. All right. But I'm doing crazy shit in the name of science and in the name of future generations of men. All right. My body's a test tube so that you guys know you guys don't have to go through the things that don't work. All right. Anyways, and so this guy, Janice, after his intensive study, developed the angel methods, which is basically exercises that you move blood through your penis. And kind of like doing cardiovascular exercise, the blood moving through the penis, it stimulates the glycocalyx, which is this lining on the insides of your blood vessels. When stimulated, says, "Oh, blood's moving. We're experiencing this kind of stress of exercise. Let's release more nitric oxide." So your endothelial cells start to grow and develop greater capacity for nitric oxide. And what that means is that the blood vessels in your penis develop and your erections get harder. Okay. So I started the Angel method back it's been 5 years. It's like 2020. Had great results from it. Improvements in my erections, my vascularity of my penis. The veins got bigger. I didn't experience penis growth the way a lot of other men do, but I'm fine because, actually my wife told me, I was telling her about these things. She's like, I don't want your penis to be any bigger. And I'm not saying I have like a gigantic penis, but it's perfectly sized. So I'm happy with the size anyways, but I've definitely noticed improvement in my erection quality. Started getting raging morning wood. So yeah, Angel methods legit. I should probably make a video just like a review of the Angel method. It'd be cool to have a conversation with Janice too. He seems like a badass dude. Anyways, you can check that out. Just look up Angel method. And in the multi-orgasmic man program, I teach as part of one of the erection protocols in there. I teach my basically how I've implemented the Angion and work with it myself. Got to stay hydrated. Got this half-gallon water bottle. Like I drink 2 of these a day. I'm good. That's a gallon of water. Bros, you should be drinking at least 90 ounces of water a day. All right. Good, clean water, not fucking tap water with fluoride and birth control residue and chlorine in it. No, get some pure, good water. 90 ounces a day, my friends. Most people are chronically dehydrated. Cool. Joe Chuck, glad you found the metaphor about the jungle. Yeah, there's several videos where I've talked about the non-ejaculatory orgasm for men. It's such a lot of men are expecting just the ejaculatory orgasm without the ejaculation. But again, what I've been talking about, this different pathway of your parasympathetic nervous system instead of the sympathetic. So in sexual kung fu, what we're doing is creating a new pathway for experiencing sexual pleasure, arousal, and even orgasm, which is through the parasympathetic nervous system and through specific energy channels as well. What that means is that you develop a relaxation response to arousal and sex. And this is how you start experiencing non-ejaculatory orgasms. But it's a very, very different experience. And the metaphor I'm using is you've worn a pathway through your mind and body by having a stress response to sexual stimulation, right? And it's like there's a jungle, and the jungle's dense, it's thick. If you've ever been in a wild jungle, like I lived in Hawaii for a couple winters, and I was doing landscaping on this kind of resort retreat place, really, really beautiful land, but like the plants grow so fast there. Like you hack things down, you hack down a trail, and the next week it's already grown back in. So the metaphor here is like, yeah, you could say this nervous system pathway, it's like a jungle, all right? And you've worn a path through that jungle because you've gone through it so many times through the pathway of your fight or flight, your nervous system, a stress response, right? That's where you tense up, you squeeze your pelvic floor so that you go quickly to that ejaculation. Then eventually you don't even realize you're doing it, and because it's a well-worn pathway. And so like if you're in jungle, you see, well, there's this open path. That's where you're going to go because it's the easiest. It's the path of least resistance. That's how we are. And that's how we develop these subconscious patterns that we do without thinking. The way we walk, the way we talk, the way we have sex, of course, you've done it so many times, it's completely subconscious. It's like a reflex. And so with the non-ejaculatory orgasm, and this goes in with ejaculation control as well, you're paving a brand new path in that jungle. And by breathing properly, by relaxing, by doing, the sexual kung fu practices. And like you get it one time, like, wow, I had ejaculation control and like I experienced this heightened pleasure in my body. Like I wore this new pathway and I found something cool. But then maybe that pathway grew back, like, oh shit, how did I do that? And then you find yourself going back to that familiar pathway of tension and quick build up to ejaculation. So this is the thing with sexual kung fu practice. You wear this new pathway by doing things in a very different way, which requires great focus, intention, and mind body connection. This is kung fu. This literally is kung fu, a skill attained through intensive training over time. And that becomes your new path in the jungle. All right. So that's the metaphor. And it's very, maybe give you a guiding light to shoot for. Because again, it's so easy to go back into that tension pathway. And I still find myself doing it a lot. Like I still have to be on my game with this stuff. Like it's way, 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 way easier. I'm, for the most part, dominant in that relaxation pathway now. But sometimes I still find myself kind of wandering down that familiar pathway. So it's just constant vigilance, my friends. Kino 600 is asking, does semen retention help hypertonic pelvic floor? I don't necessarily think so. If anything, it could exacerbate hypertonic pelvic floor. Hypertonic pelvic floor is basically just having a very tense pelvic floor. The reason why this is the case, hear me out here, is because what happens, it's going to be different for different people, but in general, when you're practicing semen retention, there's more pressure in that region. More pressure equals often more likelihood for tension. Okay. A lot of men on semen retention, it can tend to stimulate your sympathetic nervous system, overexcite you. And so a lot of men get into semen retention without really training sexual kung fu, and they develop premature ejaculation for this reason, because that area of the body becomes more tight, more tense. So it's essential, if you're doing semen retention, that you do pelvic floor practices and the sexual kung fu exercises to circulate that energy so it doesn't just stay stuck and stagnant in your genitals. All right. So yeah, semen retention is not really it's not a cure-all by any means. And it kind of creates other complications you have to deal with through your practice and through keeping yourself balanced. Like it's not like, I don't know, there's a lot of people brand new to semen retention, which is like, yeah, man, semen retention it's gonna attract every woman, and your testosterone is gonna increase 3,000 times. It's just ridiculous claims that are simply not true. And ultimately, here's the thing: modern men are so depleted because they've ejaculated so much of their life force away. They have so much stress, tension, so many toxins in the environment, that they're so depleted that when they go a week without ejaculating, you feel like you've elevated to like a Superman. So it feels like you have superpowers. Like, oh, I feel happy. I feel confident. I feel healthy. I feel horny. My dick's harder. It's just what it's like to be human. It's what it's supposed to be like. This is what a healthy human feels like. You feel good. You feel confident. You just, yeah. And so semen retention doesn't give you superpowers. It just makes you normal again, ultimately. But again, and yeah, there's a lot of nuance to this, but right. I got my water bottle's so big, I gotta hold it with both hands. Here we go, boys. Matt Brown says, I spend a lot of time on foreplay, a lot of deep kissing, not much breathing when it comes to get down to the wild thing. I find I'm already close to the edge. Yeah, this is common for men. By the time you get to sex, you're already like, boom. It's like you're the whole Taoist thing is like, men are fire, women are water. So she takes a little time to get her pot cooking, and it gets hot, but the fire is easily dispersed. So it's like, how do you maintain that fire? keeping it more of a simmer and not getting too much of a wild and controlled burn until it's time to. This is what sexual kung fu dramatically helped me with. So just staying grounded, breathing, circulating your energy. Like what I teach, what I teach men to do is like basically you get your sexual circulation going before you even start sex. Like 90% of sexual kung fu is what you're doing outside of the bedroom. It's what you do before you're even close to having sex. Versus like, oh, okay, I'm having sex and like, oh yeah, I'm close to ejaculating. What did Jonathan say to do? What did that thing I read on Reddit say to do? Oh yeah, squeeze the pelvic floor. You know, so yeah, the one of the great benefits of the sexual kung fu practices is that they give you something to focus on to keep yourself grounded, to keep the energy maintained. So when you go into sex, oh, you got it, and you can sustain it. Yeah, just breathe into your balls, breathe into your balls. See how that goes for you. Bear Harmony says, much love, man. Much love right back to you, brother. Just recently bought an Aneros prostate massager that you recommended in one of your videos. Excited to start this new journey and see where it leads me. Thanks for the great info. Well, I hope it leads you to a healthy prostate and even, who knows, maybe some prostate orgasms. Yeah, prostate massagers are a great tool for vitality. Speaking of pelvic floor tension and tension patterns, this is a very valuable ally on your journey. Prostate massager. I know it makes some men squeamish, but doesn't have to be the case. Well, this was kind of a game changer for me, to be honest, when it comes to pelvic floor tension patterns. Because when you have something in your butt, it's pretty obvious. You have very direct feedback to where you're tense and squeezing, and so that kind of gives you internal feedback of like, oh, relax more and more and more and more. So that's a great tool for that. Not to mention just for prostate health in general, which the majority of men have issues with at some point in their life, and even potentially having prostate orgasms, which is it's a whole nother rodeo, cowboy. Whew. Lost my place on Instagram. There we go. Instagram asking, have I heard about a bodywork called Amane? Amane? Nope, haven't heard of that one. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of different types of body work, healing practices. Some of it's great. Some of it's complete made up hippie shit. You just never know. But I don't know. In general, when someone's like working on you, doing body work on you, like it's only good. It depends. Unless you have some some shamanic witch priestess trying to suck the energy out of the clients. It does happen from time to time. I'm not joking. That's like I just got a massage yesterday. I got a fantastic massage. Um, I'm very, very selective. If someone's gonna do body work on me, they have to. I always like check. I'm like, do they look healthy? Do they look vital? Because you don't want someone like run down and depleted working. Like if you're a body worker, if you're a healer of any sort, you better have some sort of self care routine. Like if you smoke cigarettes and get drunk, drink alcohol, and don't take care of yourself, and then you're putting your hands on people, like you may end up sucking their energy out. You know what I mean? It's that whole like the battery, the the battery with the strongest charge charges the weaker battery. It's just how it is. So it's like you do run into that in these types of uh, situations. Oh yeah. Okay, Wolf on Instagram is asking, do I believe the female attraction on semen retention is overblown, or do you think it has a huge effect on female attraction? I think it's both. It's definitely overblown, but it's also very legitimate at the same time. What I mean by overblown is like I've kind of noticed this pattern after being in this for a long time, long time. I've been practicing semen retention for like almost 12 years now, and of course, doesn't mean I've gone that long without ejaculating, but overall, that's how long I've been doing semen retention. Um, so I know a thing or two. I've seen a thing or two, and maybe I'll start with the good news. Start with the good news. All right. Here's the thing. Again, coming back to everyone in the world is incredibly depleted. Testosterone levels are lower than they've ever been. I think the average testosterone level, it might be around 400. That might even be on the high end of what it is. These, the average. It's not good though. It's not good. They in America at least, they changed the like standardized levels of testosterone. They made them significantly lower. It's now if you have like 350, I think it's nanograms per is it deciliter or something, ng over dl. If you have 350 testosterone, that's considered in the normal range. Well, I would consider that to be extremely low. Like that may be like infertility levels low. If you go below 300, it's like hypogonadism. It's you're definitely going to be strongly estrogenic if you're below 500. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So, so first of all, men are it's been a gradual decline in like men actually being manly for several decades now. I mean, it's worse than ever. Men these days are very, very feminine, very, very feminized, very high estrogen, very androgynous looking, very, over emotional, moody, you know, it's not very attractive to women. It's rare now to have a man who has a strong presence, who has confidence, who has he's got that wolf look in his eyes, that certain spark, okay? And to be juicy, vital, and healthy. Now, ejaculating less frequently, practicing semen retention, it changes your hormonal profile. Typically, there could be other factors that, if you're super stressed out, your diet's garbage, you're not sleeping, semen retention probably won't do a whole lot for you. It may do a little bit, but there's other things here, right? But in general, if you're ejaculating every day, that's definitely going to be tanking your hormones. So you start not doing that, your testosterone improves, this whole like hormonal change happens. Pheromones increase as testosterone increases. What is it? Androsterone increases, which women, they literally smell. They smell your pheromones. They literally smell the retention on you. It's true. It's true. They will be more attracted to you. It doesn't mean they're going to like, okay, there's always, I guess there is always these, this was the biggest difference I noticed when I started practicing retention was that sometimes women would come up and talk to me. Some women did throw themselves at me. I guess I can't really deny this happened. Like some of you may have heard the story where I was out playing music. I used to be a musician, long hair flowing musician. I was still like a scrawny little guy overall, but like I guess I had a lot more confidence and I'm doing qigong, I'm doing semen retention. I guess I had some juice overall. Anyways, I'm out playing music at this. It was kind of like an outdoor patio. Like it wasn't like a club or anything like that. It's kind of a more classy setting. And there's these two women in the audience like, woo, Jonathan, woo. And they come up later and like they give me their number. One of them texts me, he's like, can I come check out your bedroom and all these things? I'm like, damn, like it just happened, And I can tell you that never happened when I was ejaculating frequently. So it definitely changes something. It changes something in your field, and it makes sense because like biologically, there's all kinds, it's like 90% of communication is happening at a subconscious level. It's non-vocal, it's non-verbal. It's other ways that our bodies are communicating and our energy fields too. If you look at two different men, here's the guy who's jerking off to porn every day. He's eating junk food. He's estrogenic. He's depressed and moody and blah, blah, blah. Kind of a typical guy these days, to be honest. What do you think? What signals is his body sending the woman's body? It's saying, hey, I take shit care of myself. I'm depleted. I'm basically like fighting for survival right now. My hormones are tanked. I have high estrogen. I'm inflamed as fuck. I'm probably not going to be a very good daddy. So don't be sexually attracted to me. That's what his body is telling her body. And her body's reading this saying, oh, no, he's not. Like, yeah, we're all very evolved and so, sophisticated in the modern age, but really we're still just animals. We're just animals. We wear fancier masks now, I guess, or fancier clothes. I don't know. Anyway, so there's that guy, right? But there's the guy who's not jerking off to porn. Maybe you're hitting the gym. You eat reasonably healthy. You're doing your qigong. You're glowing. You're radiating energy. You walk by and the woman's like, where did he come from? What's he doing? Damn, There's that. All right. But there's some men who who practice semen retention because they still have this underlying self-esteem issues. They still have issues with women. They're still sending a lot of like often it's like nice guy patterns, and there's like these subconscious things they're still doing that are repelling to women. So um, if that's in place strongly, it's going to kind of neutralize whatever effect semen retention is having on you. So it's not a fix all. Like some guys are they want to think that they can just like sit around doing nothing and women will just flock to them. And ultimately that's not being your masculine. Being a man is about taking action. It's about you initiating conversation with a woman. It's about you engaging, saying, "Hey, let's go do sushi Tuesday night." You create the plan, you make the action. You know what I mean? So, sitting there, well, if I just look beautiful, she'll want to come and talk to me. I practice semen retention. I'm so beautiful. It's a very feminine dynamic. You're like, well, I want her to come approach me, and so I don't have to do anything. That's being in the feminine. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, I think we get the idea. Hopefully. Okay, Matt's asking, is there a safe way to do Montauk Chia sharpening the knife practice? If it involves jelking or stretching your dick, no, don't do that shit. It's fucking stupid. It's not a classical Taoist practice. It's modern made up shit. Actually, complete misunderstanding of jelking was originally done tip to base. I think it was I think it came from the Middle East. The practice itself, I don't remember, but no, it's shit's stupid. Montauk Chia, love the guy, but some things he teaches are just downright not good ideas. I will just say that. I remember it was. I think it was one of his books to talk about. Also, maybe it was in line with sharpening the knife, to where like, well, if you desensitize your penis, you'll be less likely to ejaculate. So you like hit your head of your penis, like rub it against like rough material. It's like it's ridiculous. It's first of all, that's not getting to the root. Like sensitivity isn't caused because yeah, the nerves of my penis are just too sensitive. Penis sensitivity is caused because your pelvic floor is extremely tense. And so the nerve signals going from the penis are creating an exaggerated tension response to the pelvic floor. So instead of numbing your dick, you release the tension patterns in your nervous system and your pelvic floor. A little more holistic, a little more Tao. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Don Mole says, do I continue to put practice views on the Immortal Energy Arts or Negong part in the future? Possibly in the future, not right now though. Yeah, Mortal Energy Arts is kind of a I haven't really publicly talked about this in probably quite a long time now, but I know it's in some of my old videos and it's still available. It's like $20 a month and you do some intensive energy training. Pretty badass stuff, not gonna lie. Um, but yeah, I don't really have time capacity to continue adding to that currently. I may in the future. Yeah. Oh yeah. Opulent Tramp. Great name. I learned about MMS through your Rumble video. Huge thank you. Oh yeah, yeah. That's I can't say too much about this because, talk about one of the most censored things. I could easily get into the tangent of how much fuckery there is, how the modern medical system is literally a control system, draining the money out of people and draining their health. It's pretty messed up, pretty freaking messed up. About 100 years of this now. Anyways, because of this, you know, guess who's sponsored by uh, pharmaceutical companies and giant corporations? Anyways, they control the news, they control the information, and they control people's view of reality. Therefore, health is not difficult. To be healthy and to not have disease, things that are killing most people, especially things starting the C word, it doesn't have to exist. There's natural, simple, very cheap cures to it. And uh, there's people spending trillions of dollars to make sure you don't find out about that, right? Go to my sexual kung fu detox video. Just go on YouTube, look up sexual kung fu detox. And then in the description of that video, there's a link to a video on Rumble, which I talk about what I can't really say here. And it's a game changer. I will just say that. Well, this fits right in. Someone's asking about fasting. Regarding fasting, can you elaborate on different, better methods of releasing toxins, please? What I was just talking about, go to my sexual kung fu detox video. Hopefully, it still pops up. It's there's been this thing. I'm just going to check right now, where some of my older YouTube videos, even when I search for the exact title, they don't show up, which is interesting. Huh. Yeah, it's not showing up when I look for it. Um, well, I'm going to make a new video on detox soon. Interesting. But yeah, better methods of detoxing. Again, fasting. Yeah, fasting can be like okay. I'll say this: if I had something chronic, if I had some serious illness, I would probably do fasting because it's like the if it's high cortisol and I feel super irritable and or death, fair trade off. Fair trade off. But for like general, this kind of maintenance detoxification, which we should all be doing because we are bombarded with toxins every single day. Um, basically, okay, number one is sauna. Using a sauna, fantastic. Um, apparently, distilled water. If I actually have a water distiller. I need to start using it again more frequently. But um, information I've heard, again, it's information. Who knows if it's true? But it makes sense to me that when you're drinking mineralized water, often it's inorganic materials that you're like a lot of these like mineral supplements, your body can't actually absorb. So when you get these inorganic minerals with your water, your body can't actually absorb them, and it just ends up collecting, depositing in your joints, and your tissues can cause arthritis and things like that. So apparently, when people with arthritis start drinking distilled water, it makes it go away because it pulls these mineral deposits out of your body and releases them. So again, hydration at the root of detoxification. If you're not drinking enough water, forget it. Um, sauna. I have an infrared sauna. It's like a little tent. One of my friends calls it the masturbation tent, just because it's like you could just be sitting in there jerking off, and no one would know. But it's like this little tent you sit in, and your head sticks out, and it's like an infrared sauna within it. And there's one at the gym I'll use too. So I try to hit the sauna twice a week. That's one of the main ways we release toxins is through sweating. If you're not sweating, you're not releasing toxins. Activated charcoal, fantastic. One of the best detoxification things. I often take it in the morning on an empty stomach. 2 hours away from food or water, not water. I'll drink water. 2 hours away from food or supplements because it may or may not absorb nutrients into it. It's uncertain, but it pulls toxins out of your body. Bentonite clay as well detoxifies mold and other things from your body. So you can do a tablespoon of bentonite clay. Um, you may do like you have a week where you have bentonite clay, a tablespoon in water, mix it up, have that every day in the morning on an empty stomach. Do that for a week. Um, you know, I'll do a video on detoxification. I'll do another one, updated one, but things like this, right? Just do some research on detoxification. Basically, if you clean up your diet, you're drinking water, you're exercising, you're getting sunlight, you're going to naturally have this detoxification happening over time. And it can even be more pleasant than some people are like, oh, I'm going to, yeah, just get it all out at once, which would be extremely miserable. I've experienced that. It can be better just to do gradual detox to where things are slowly releasing during time. And you want to, fiber. Fiber is very important because just general day to day, because as you're detoxifying, your liver tends to release toxins, especially estrogen. Your liver will release estrogen into your intestines, and when you eat fiber, soluble fiber, or is it insoluble fiber? I forget. The fiber will absorb that estrogen, so you don't reabsorb it. Essentially, so fiber is good. I like carrots, something like that. All right. Okay, Opulent Tramp is asking, do you truly believe anyone can overcome premature ejaculation and attain multiple orgasms? Yes, I do believe that. And I'm laying it all out there. You just, for some men, it's going to be more difficult. But if you do these things consistently, you're going to get in that direction. It's going to happen. Bear Harmony says squats and deadlifts work the pelvic floor. Just move daily and you'll be fine. Completely agree. Completely agree. The question: am I big into yoga? Trying to get more flexible and mobile for surf. I'm not big into yoga. I used to be big into yoga. That was my That was my first practice. I got into yoga in like 2011. Because it was like, yeah, man, it's like this. There's all this philosophy. I was like, yeah, it'll align your chakras, and there's all these like fun Eastern terms that go with it, And after a few years of doing yoga, I'm like, I'm kind of just like stretching my muscles and tissues, and that sounds good. It feels good. I mean, it feels good, but I don't feel my chakras. I don't feel this. I don't feel my nadis. I don't feel the kundalini. You know what I mean? And then I got into qigong. Like, oh, okay. This is how you actually. It's funny. Modern yoga is missing the engine. It's kind of like you've got this Cadillac, you get a Lamborghini. I don't care. It's sitting in the garage, but it has no engine in it. So you get in it and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool, looks sexy, all right, but there's no engine there. Now, coming from an internal energy cultivation standpoint, yoga is fantastic. So many benefits from it. I'm not trying to bash yoga. It's just like the internal energy training that used to be a part of it's completely gone. I mean, it's gone for most modern qigong as well, but at least it's I've seen a lot more of it within qigong. I haven't seen anyone teaching like how to actually get the energy moving in yoga, like truly. But yeah, it's great for the body, openness and flexibility and that sort of thing. I'm curious how many people I offend every time I speak now, and it's fine. I don't care. I'm just sharing my opinions. I got opinions, I got views, and I've been through a lot of bullshit. I've been down all kinds of rabbit holes you can't even imagine. Many of you probably, and sometimes it makes you a bit more. I don't know if bitter is the right word, or more. There's a better word, but cynical maybe. Let's face it though. There's so much bullshit in the world. People are content to do something, believe, maybe religion's a good, oh boy, here we go. A good example of this. Like people love to have a belief in something. It's like, okay, this is bringing me there. Even if none of it's actually happening, is they believe in it, and like that's enough for them. You know what I mean? And that's I see a lot of that in internal arts world. Qigong, Neigong stuff. Like people are imagining, well, yeah, becoming immortal. I'm cultivating the immortal fetus by imagining a golden light entering my belly, and I'm waving my arms around, and yeah, it's doing it. It's like, you know, there's certain tangible things that you start to experience when you're doing, like chi becomes a very obvious, tangible electrical phenomena. Uh, I joined a school this year. These guys, super legit. These guys, it's a measurable thing when you have chi. Basically, I'll leave it at that and go on. Which brings me right to this is actually perfect. This is perfect. Matthew Goldstein's asking about, could I talk a little bit more about your Tian Shan training? So I have a program on my website, Tian Shan Neigong, which goes well in line with what I'm just saying. This is a system that I learned. I started training in it 3 years ago or so. It's a badass system. And basically, it's a super minimal Neigong system. Because in a lot of systems you train in, there's one school I've been in for 5 years now that's like, there's so many practices and there's thousands of practices. And it's cool, they're good, they're fun, but there's only they only needed like 5 or 6 of them. Really, there only needed to be 5 or 6 practices. And I'm like, why am I doing all this other bullshit when that's all I really needed to do what this is supposed to be doing? You know what I mean? And so there's often a lot of fluff. So some systems just add in all this shit. So when there's like a million practices, I couldn't do that all, So Tian Shan Neigong I like because it's super minimal. It gets right to how do you develop chi. You start with the hands. You activate the chi field of the hands. This magnetic force, yang chi field in the hands. And once that's developed, you use that to develop your lower dantian. Fill it up, activate that magnetism, the yin yang field there. And then the middle dantian. And then the upper dantian. And boom, you've got some serious juice going in your system. And there's no visualization. There's no, I need to guide the energy from here to here. You literally sit, hold the posture. There's some mental things you do to create that chi pressure and intensify it. But that's all you do. You sit or stand or lay down. You can do it. You can do it all kinds of ways. It's another reason I like it. You can walk around. I teach in that course how to do a basic bagua circle walking while doing the Neigong. You can do it however you want. And like you're building serious chi. So it's no bullshit. It's straight to the point. It gives you certain foundational principles and practices that everyone should have. Like if you do other qigong, you'll get a lot from that. I teach you how to implement it in all kinds of different ways. So it's pretty badass. If you're serious about Negong and internal energy training, I would highly recommend that you go through that program. It's on my website, Tian Shan Negong. Okay. Nirdas says, can excessive chi build up in your belly after an extensive period of practices, breathwork, qigong, or other spiritual tools, i.e., Buddha belly, even though you're working out a lot physically? I'm not sure about this one. I've heard, getting back to like just so much information about these things, so many like words written in books, but like, what does any of it actually mean? You know what I mean? I think that the Buddha belly is from fat. It's from body fat, and body fat comes from you accumulate body fat, and the belly is the first and last place. It's the first place the body fat tends to build for men, and it's the last place you'll get rid of it. So it's not uncommon for men to have them, especially. I remember someone commenting years ago saying, "Why do all qigong teachers have dad bods?" It's kind of true. It's because they're concerned with chi, and like they're not concerned about getting physically jacked. I've only met a few like legitimate, powerful chi cultivators who also do like weight training or something like that. So it's pretty rare, and it's not right or wrong, but I like to do both personally. So I don't know if there's really anything. Of course, like these a lot of these guys will say, yeah, like you get a big belly because there's so much chi. It's your dantian. I'm like, no, it's you got a beer belly, bro. Cut some of your calories. You get a little more exercise. Pick up a barbell, bro. Um, that's my thing. Like maybe there can be like this stagnant. One of my teachers talks about. He says like, oh yeah, if you get chi stuck, like if you're working with the false dantian point, another one of these concepts that maybe it's real, maybe it's not, where it's more the chi high point in the front of the belly, that your chi will get really stagnant. And you'll develop a chi belly. Um, but I don't think it's true. I would not be worried about it. Like, you know how difficult it actually is to build up chi in your dantian? Doing breath work doesn't do it unless like there can be breathing aspects to contribute to it, but ultimately very much internal Neigong skill to actually get chi in your dantian, and it's easy to disperse it from there. So it's to actually build it to a point where it would make you fat. Like it would be a very impressive accomplishment. It's a lot more difficult than people realize because it's easy. For most people, dantian is just a concept that they never actually experience. Like very few people practicing qigong these days have the internal energetic circuitry going. Going back to like it's kind of this fantasy thing where they're imagining things happening that aren't happening. And anyways, okay, IED big. Uh, I have not seen any posts from you. It's possible that you had a word that got removed from YouTube for some reason. I apologize. If you have like a sexual word or something or question, try like using a code word and filtering it, and maybe I'll see it. I apologize. Okay, guys, there's a lot of questions. I'm not going to be able to get to every question. I'm just going to have to skim through now. Okay, here's an interesting question. Do I believe that there can be a healthy relationship if sex is only used with the intent of having children? Okay, how can a relationship flourish without the need for sex? Well, my honest raw opinion, I don't know how ultimately long run healthy the relationship could be. Now, some people could do it. Some people could do it. I would tell you this though. If I was with a woman and she was like, well, sex should only be used for children, so we're gonna have to find a way to like have a healthy relationship without children. Be like, that's fine. Like we'll be friends, and I'll have a lover who I can have sex with. Because I don't know. For me, sex is a very important part of the relationship. It's like, what's the point of being with someone? What's the point of like bond? Having this like commitment to someone if you're not having sex? Then you're kind of just friends. It seems like it to me. And I know there's often like all this like cultural baggage and religious baggage and all these things. Like maybe that's an aspect to it, maybe not. That's something you can discuss with your priest. But I chose to remove all that, all those chains of bondage, and be a free spirit, living a very spiritual life, by the way, a long time ago. So I but let's, I guess, you're seriously asking the question. I'll give, maybe a more um, graceful answer. uh, you would definitely need a way of exchanging yin and yang with each other, or something. Or I imagine that some sort of resentment may build up in that relationship. You can do like eye gazing practices, tantric exchange practices, having deep, heartfelt conversations, holding hands, kissing, dry humping, whatever. Um, yeah, if there's a way for like an intimate exchange to happen without physical penetration, I'm curious why you wouldn't want to in the first place. I'm very curious about that. You know, um, so yeah, hopefully that is something helpful. Okay. How? Oh, yeah, here's an interesting question. How should the energy feel when getting to know a new possible long-term partner? Sometimes the desire for intimacy can override the compatibility factor. Well, I would go less on energy and more on common sense and logic. Men tend to get, when you get over emotional about this, a lot of men are very emotional, very like, it's very feeling, very touchy feely based. Like, well, I love her so much, and I can see myself with her forever. But a lot of that is just, it's just hormones released. The excitement of meeting a new partner, and like we often paint all kinds of pictures in our, especially people like who get real into spiritual stuff. It's like, well, it's my twin flame, my soulmate. This happened synchronistically. We're supposed to be together forever. We have past lives together. It's just this mental story and all this over emotionality. I think you should be a bit more rational and logical. Are you compatible in the long term? Um, do they take care of themselves? Do you take care of yourself? And do you have conflicting values? Like, if it's little things, it doesn't matter. Like, you and your partner shouldn't be exactly the same. It's good to have some differences. But if there's like big values that would conflict, especially in the future, that's a big red flag. So I would say, rather than reading the energy, it's use more logical analysis, and use both. Like, obviously it should feel good to be around them. It shouldn't feel like contrived or forceful, or like you have to be a certain person. So maybe that's the energetic side of it, is you should just feel relaxed, and like it should just feel good to be with them. And there, I think it's also good there's not a lot of like what's the word, where you're just obsessed with the person, that kind of like, just like, oh, I love her so much. That tends to, for me, I found that was a red flag. Like when I felt like intensely, um, you know, obsessed, overly, kind of overly invested in the interaction, the relationship, then I realized it was kind of a red flag. Like when I met the woman who's now my wife, if it was nice to meet her, and I thought she was attractive, but I didn't feel like a strong obsessive pull towards her. It was like, yeah, it'd be cool to be with her, but I don't really, I'm fine. I'm happy being who I am. I'm creating the life I want. And if it works with her, fantastic. If not, that's great, because I'd rather keep doing what I'm doing than be pulled into some bullshit relationship. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Can you grow your soldier after 30? I don't know. Maybe not. A lot of this penis enlargement stuff is complete bullshit. Like, people started getting all these YouTube ads, all this bullshit stuff. Like, it's like this long sales video. It's full of like porn clips, and it's just to sell you this like herbal product. Like, oh, tribes in Africa use this secret, and it's like it's like, oh, maca root, citrulline, maybe it has like nattokinase. It's like, it's not gonna grow your penis. You can't take a pill that grows your penis. I don't think it's possible. And you know, don't worry about it too much. Ultimately, Corey D, what's up, bro? Okay. Here's a question on Instagram. Doing inner alchemy 5 years. Is there a problem if I have a partner? I have some partners sometimes. Or like, okay, it sounds like you're drinking is okay if you like get drunk and like sleep with someone. I don't care. It's fine. Go have fun. It's, you don't have to be a Puritan priest. Now it's like, what's your own morals? Like, if you're fine with like having a one night stand every now and then, it's not a big deal. It's fine. Go have fun. Enjoy life. It's great. If you're the type of person that needs more of like more of a container, more of like a trust and a relationship to the person, then do that. Date more instead of like going out and having that one night stands. Ultimately, like you follow your own morale, what's moral for you, what feels right for you, what's ultimately bringing you into balance and harmony. We all have our own path to walk. I can't tell you what you shouldn't be asking me what to do with your life. I can only share what's worked for me, share certain principles. So you ultimately got to decide for yourself, bro. Yeah, I say go have some fun. It's not a big deal. Wheatgrass is asking, what is dragon breathing? It's a legit, super powerful Negong practice I developed based on some principles I understood from internal energy training. Basically, pumps your whole macro orbit from the legs, microcosmic orbit, gets your sexual energy moving through there, activates the sacrum, sacral pump, all kinds of stuff. It's badass. It's a big focal point of the Multi-Orgasmic Man course. Van Rutan, thoughts on working out as a replacement for sex and masturbation? Problem is, you can only work out a certain amount per day before it gets counterproductive. Yeah, I mean, of course, like that's the whole thing is like putting your energy into other things. And like you said, you can only work out so much per day. So like physical activity in general is good, but it's also like when you rely on distractions, you're never really getting to the core of the issue. The whole thing about sexual kung fu is like sex or masturbation are not inherently wrong. It's just when you engage them in a way that is impulsive and you're ejaculating every time, yeah, that's so like change your dynamic, change your relationship to those things. Because when you rely on other kind of things to distract you from the deeper thing, you're never really getting to the core of the issue. So how do you change your relationship to it in the first place? Then you don't need something to distract you from it. Esoteric moment. What's the most ultimate course available that you offer? Overall, the Multi-Orgasmic Man course, because it's the complete training system of sexual kung fu. And then after that, you go even deeper into stuff, which is a sex god course. It's the whole system that's ultimate, ultimately. Joe Chuck, thanks for joining, bro. Okay, Nicholas asking, how does one heal a tight, weak pelvic floor? Been stuck on what to do, especially if whether I should do Kegels again or just stick to reverse Kegels. Well, it depends on what the issue is you're having, but unless you're like incontinent, unless you don't have any control of your bowels, your urination, then you probably don't need to do Kegels. You're probably better off um, releasing pelvic floor tension and doing basic exercise, basic compound movements. Go to the gym, do some elliptical, learn how to do deadlift, squats, or even just some basic leg press, something. That's all you really need. Okay, someone asking about Kundalini syndrome. I would say 90% of the time it's just overactive sympathetic nervous system. It's not a true Kundalini awakening. Again, if you're having Kundalini awakening because you're in a whole other dimension. All right, it's like you took LSD trip. You took LSD and you can't get off of it. Um, you're seeing beings from other dimensions and like you're in the astral plane. That's Kundalini. If you're just overstimulated, you have insomnia, your thoughts are racing, and you're just like hyperactive, that just means you have too much energy going up, getting stuck in your head. So simple as that. You need more grounding. Probably good to focus on some Dantian work. Maybe just take a break from whatever you're doing. Whatever practice you're doing, take a break from. Go do some physical work. Go walk in nature. Things like that. It's really simple. Like Kundalini, it's a very trendy thing, but ultimately, it's misdiagnosed because not misdiagnosed. Like Kundalini psychosis isn't Kundalini at all. It's just too much yang energy up into the head, frying your brain. Because it happens because we're very mental in the modern world. We're completely up in our heads. So people are going into Qigong practices and they're doing it with a lot of force and a lot of mental tension. And where you're engaged most within your body is where the chi is going to go. So when you're stuck up in your head, guess where the energy is going to go? Up there, and it just exacerbates this pattern. So getting low in your body, getting down to your belly and your legs. Simple as that. Okay, maybe a couple more questions. It's hard to quit, guys. So many interesting questions, but I'm gonna have to jump off here shortly. But my experiences with lucid dreaming, astral travel, Taoist methods for this. Do you consider these practices important? Yeah, I was super into lucid dreaming in my it was like late teenage years, actually early 20s. I got really good at it when I was around 19, 20 years old. It's pretty exhilarating. You wake up, you're in a dream, and then you realize you're dreaming and you remember everything. Like, you remember who you are, everything. Like, wow, I'm dreaming right now. And then it gets even more wild when you can, like, the more intense your lucidity becomes, the more you remember, oh yeah, this is who I am. And like, you can affect the dream world. It's literally like being Neo in the Matrix. You can like make things appear. You can open up doorways to other places. You can fly. It's crazy. It's wild. It's a lot of fun. It could be valuable because you spend so much time sleeping. It'd be nice if you could spend that time practicing or flying around, or you can have sex too. Like, of course, that was one of the first things I did when I became lucid. Like, where the hot babes at? Um, there's that too. The Taoist methods, there's specific methods. I've learned some. There's certain positions that you can use. I mean, I've learned loads and loads of what are called shui gong practices, which are practices you do laying down, kind of preparing to go into sleep. Um, I honestly don't know if how much lucid dreaming was an important part of Taoist practice, or if it was. There's sleep and dream based methods, but I don't know if there's some schools that are saying you shouldn't have dreams at all. You shouldn't have lucidity. It kind of the more Buddhist thing of like it's just a distraction, it's just an illusion to tie you in, or into the material. So, um, but I've learned tons and tons of different sleep based practices, and there's certain positions that are supposed to help. Like if you lay on your left side, well, left or right side, but like if you place your palm against the side of your face, kind of by your temples, uh, your right knee's up towards your chest, and your is straight, left leg straight, knee up, left hand against the face. You're lying on your side. Look up Chen. I was in China last year, and at the base of Mount Huashan, incredible mountain, there's this enormous, giant statue of Chen Tuan, who is the legendary sleeping immortal, and he's in that position, Chen Tuan's sleeping meditation position. Supposedly, this guy would like leave his body for weeks and months on end. Someone would be there to like kind of clean him up, wash the bugs and the cobwebs off of his body, and then he'd come back in periodically. Legends say. Um, yeah, I imagine that's a highly refined skill I haven't seen anyone do, but be pretty cool. Do I consider them important? I they can be. I think they're important to a certain extent because when you experience what it's like to be out of your body, to be floating through the astral realm, and you're in a body, but it's not your physical body, it completely changes your paradigm, and you no longer fear death because like, oh, well, my consciousness doesn't end when I'm not in my body. So all right, I'm gonna be good. So maybe good makes good preparation for death. You know what I'm saying? So that you can become lucid after you finally leave this body for good. Don't just kind of get lost in the cosmic washing machine. I mean, I don't know what really happens. No one does, except people who've died, but they're not with us, are they? So maybe important in that regard, but they can also become a bit distracting for people. Like if you're so obsessed with lucid dreaming and astral travel that you're not paying your bills or paying attention to your relationships, or not really going anywhere in life, then a little bit imbalancing. You got to balance your life in the world and your spiritual life. There's got to be a good balance of both. Otherwise, you just get an escapist with a lot of spiritual bypassing. Okay, question? How do you gauge lower Dantian energy level? I've got a meter right here. I don't know. Does anyone really know? Maybe. I think that a lot of the really established masters of systems, they can kind of they can what they often do is run their chi through your system and see like how developed your meridians are, and like how it's kind of maybe I don't know if it's like feeding back to your Dantian. Um, I don't have that level of skill. I can't say, but one interesting thing you can use is, can you remove alcohol from an alcoholic drink? This was training one of the schools I trained in. I took a beer, poured it into two different glasses, and I did a chi emission for just took a few minutes, and then I sipped the one I had chi emitted. There was a significantly different taste. It didn't have that like kind of that certain bitter taste of alcohol. It was gone. The flavor completely changed. I was like, it's crazy. And I spit it out. I didn't swallow it. Just spit, don't swallow, boys. Sipping the alcohol and spitting it out. I fucking hate alcohol. I'm never gonna drink that shit again. So that was like, whoa, okay. I'm gonna get some like alcohol test kits to see if like legitimately the numbers change on them. But yeah, that's one method. They actually use that for people in China who are going to work in hospitals. Well, back in the day, that's not really a thing anymore. Ever since good old Falun Gong situation over there. Uh, basically you had to be able to remove the alcohol from a drink before you could work on people, because the idea being that alcohol is a toxin, and if you can purge a toxin, then you can purge toxins from people's bodies. So that's why, like it's very practical. Like there's all this like woo woo stuff in here in the West where it's like, oh, I took I took a 6 hour Reiki course on a weekend, now I'm a Reiki master. Like there's no real standardization, or you know what I mean. It's like, yeah, I like stuff that's very real and like measurable. These days I was definitely way more in the airy fairy feel good new agey scene earlier on, but I'm a little more practical these days and kind of tired of bullshit, just to be honest. Creating thought forms. I mean, everything you're doing is creating thought forms. Maybe you could be a bit more specific about that. You're talking about magic practices, like where you're creating egregores and shit. There is definitely a lot of that I mean, there the Taoist. It's kind of funny because the word itself is like, what does it ultimately mean? You know, so sure, someone who's following the Tao, but like, what the fuck is the Tao? Is it the Tao that Lao Tzu wrote about? Is it what Chen Tuan talked about? Is it what the early like Wu shaman groups that were doing like shamanic practices like? What is it ultimately like? What could be considered Taoist is a huge range of potentiality. So there's no real like ultimate. Ultimately, there's no rules in it. It's just like there's certain common themes you'll often find. Books coming out early March. I was talking, or sorry, early February. I was talking about that earlier. Okay, David's asking about Kundalini experience for a woman and a man during sex. And again, maybe I'm terminology. For some people, Kundalini is just like when energy moves up the spine into the brain. I consider Kundalini to be a very specific thing that's like you're blasting off into another dimension when it hits, and most people aren't experienced that. I've gotten a little bit of that during sex. How is it different for men and women? I don't know. I'm not a woman. You'd have to ask a woman that. But overall, like the orgasm experience, I think is very similar for men and women when they're in the full body orgasm, expanding, blasting off. Just the feedback I've gotten from my partners and myself, it sounds like we're kind of in unison. I think that's something that feeds it too. Is there's this yin yang kind of pulsation, and you sync up, and it, one of my who is it? I think Bruce Francis talks about like you create this third core channel that's like your core channel and your partner's core channel. You resonate, then it creates this whole other channel, this other energy channel, and like you both kind of unify and become part of that. And like, and that's beyond Kundalini. It's just like, I don't know, you're opening up a portal to some crazy shit. That's what I'll call it. uh, Asking what my birthday and age is. Do I believe in birthday? I don't believe in birthdays. I don't know. You mean like astrology? My birthday is January 6th. It's coming right up. I'm going to be 37 years old in January. Have I had any non-Taoist spiritual teachers or business mentors that made a direct impact on your life? Oh yeah, many, 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 many. Um, you know, Different friends I've had early on in life. I was a musician for many years, so there was, there's a lot of people I looked up to in that realm of things. I've had, I'm not like, you know, I'm not a Taoist. Like I don't have any title. I'm not like tied to any certain identity or thing. Like I am who I am. I'm an explorer of human potential. That's what I am. But I'm not a Taoist. I'm more influenced by Taoist philosophy than any other like kind of titled spiritual type of path that I've found. But I don't consider myself a Taoist because I don't know, I'm a unique, different person. And to be honest, I don't follow Taoist principles as well as I could. I admit it. Um, if I was, I'd be out in nature. I would renounce most of my worldly possessions, and I'd be living in a cabin in the woods somewhere. Maybe I'll do that someday. But yeah, I've had many, many non-Taoist teachers. I mean, I currently do. I have, there's my qigong teachers who are my qigong mentors, and they teach me, different things of life and philosophy too. But mostly, they're my qigong teachers. And I have my business. I'm in a business marketing group, and I have some mentors in there, and I learn business skills from them. But I don't learn lifestyle skills from them because these guys are burnt the fuck out. They grind too hard, and so I learn specific things from people who are really good at those things, and then so it's like I want to learn about health from someone who's an expert at health. I have this teacher who talks about health, but he's a little overweight and clearly he's not embodying that. So yeah, I don't need to take on that aspect. So yeah, I I look for teachers in this thing. I learned that from them, and I put it all together. That's how we're supposed to develop, really. It's what schooling system was supposed to do for us, but it really just turned us into brainwashed slaves. Okay, I'm gonna choose like two or three more questions and be done, guys. We're pushing 2 hours, doing great today. Okay. Okay. Wondering what my daily routine looks like with lifting weights and qigong and meditation. Well, 3 hours a day, pretty much non-negotiable. It's honestly, it's usually more than that, but it's like there's like the 3 hours of like really structured practice. So in the morning, I usually do about an hour and a half, and then I usually do another hour and a half in the evening. Now, I go to the gym. I've just started a new workout routine. I'm actually hitting the gym 2 days a week and doing two home workouts a week. Very specific plan program. I'm at kind of an intermediate. I was plateauing on certain workout principles, and I'm working on basically a new routine. It's intense as fuck. Like I say I'm in the gym twice a week, but it's like 2 hour workouts each time, and then I'm doing home workouts, certain things that build on top of that. 2 days a week. So really I'm working out 4 days a week. I was doing 3 days in the gym before that though, for many years. Yeah, then I'm doing some martial arts. There's the work that I need to do, etc. But I cut out, I started scheduling my day, be like, okay, if I want to practice this much, I have to put it on a schedule so that it's 9 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And it's like, okay, it's this time. I'm supposed to be practicing. So no excuses. I got to go fucking practice. And I do it, whether I feel like it or not. Years and years and years of that. It's a habit. I do a little meditation before I go to sleep. I do 20 minutes or so, just sit and kind of settle my energy and go right in, like literally plop in bed after that and go to sleep. Foreskin restoration practices. Something I've been interested in, man, this is a whole rabbit hole that, it's pretty messed up. Circumcision is completely messed up. Some of you may have joined, announced at the beginning of this that I'm having a child in 3 months. My wife and I decided to start a family. So having a child, I am not, if they're a boy, we don't know. We're doing everything 100% natural. That's a whole nother thing I could go on. It's like the hospital system with birthing. It's messed up. The drugs, I don't need to even get started on. We're doing things very naturally. But yeah, I would never do that to a baby. I mean, cut a piece of their genitals off when they come into the world. Like, what in the hell? And the logic as well, so it doesn't get infected. It's like, okay, a lot of people get ear infections. Do you cut people's ears off after they're born? Like, anyways, there's a whole nother deep rabbit hole of pretty dark stuff that goes along with circumcision. But so I did become interested in this several years ago because I'm hearing it from several people, and I've tried some foreskin restoration methods. To be honest, haven't been super consistent with it for a couple reasons. One, I'm not like too concerned about it. Like I'm not one of these guys like everything's bad happened to me because I'm circumcised and I'm so traumatized. Like I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to put a whole story about it. Like I'm happy with everything. I have no regrets. Like I see anything that could be viewed as something negative is something that made me who I am, and I can either be a bitch about it or I can own it and say, you know what, I can be strong and like turn this. I can alchemize this into something that helps other people. Anyways, one reason why wasn't consistent with it was because I was getting like pain from doing like the like you do like this stretching and pulling, and I was having this like sometimes doing it as often as you're supposed to was causing pain that was like causing discomfort during sex. I'm like, well, fuck that. So I don't know. We'll see. If anyone has thoughts on natural foreskin restoration, if you've done it, I'm curious to hear about it. But I might talk about more of this in future videos. All right, guys. Okay, one last one. Let's see. Bro's suffering here. I gotta help him out here. So, struggling with porn addiction, fucked the dopamine system, made it hard to focus on anything, and attention spans reduced. Yeah, okay. So you're like 99% of other men in the world. It's all right. Here's what you do. Get off the fucking screen, okay? There's these new phones. I forget what they're called, but it's like a super simplified phone, It just has like music, messages. There's no other apps and bullshit. I'm probably going to get one. I've had pretty good boundaries with technology these days anyway, but just because I like the thought of it. I had in 2015 or 16, I got rid of my smartphone, and I had like a flip, you know, phone, not smartphone, for like a few years, and it was the best period of my life. Looking back on it, it's kind of crazy how much these devices they fuck you up. Okay, we'll say that. So bro, get out in nature, do real life things. Just do real life things. It's as simple as that. Put your fucking phone down. Stop jerking off to porn. Find new things to do. Go for a walk every day. Go to the park. Go do qigong. Go to the gym. Do something social. Join classes. Go to a yoga class. Go to a martial arts class. I don't care what it is. Go do things with your body. Get a hobby. Painting, painting, playing an instrument, something that like you use your arms and your hands and you're like touching and creating and building things. Like humans don't do that stuff anymore. It's crazy. We're just sitting staring at these devices and our brain's fucked up. Brain's fucked up. So there you go, bro. You know what you must do. Now it's up to you to do it. All right. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I can only show you guys the path. You must walk it. All right. With that, appreciate you guys for being here. Always great to connect, and look forward to meeting you in person, guys. There'll be some workshops next year, I'm sure. Stay tuned for that. Books coming out, all the things. But yeah, much love to you guys. Really do appreciate you. And I wish you guys a very happy rest of your 2025. Very happy holiday season. Take care of yourselves, guys. Take some rest. Turn off the screen. Like, take care of yourself. I want you to do something nurturing for yourself today and this weekend. Will you do that for me? All right. Take care, brothers, and we'll see you soon.